If anything, it's
Okay, hello everybody, and welcome back to Secret Sex Dungeon. My name is Luke McFan, and tonight we are going to be delving back into the storyline of the Secret Sex Dungeon adventurers. Most recently, our adventurers had spent the night at Lightwatch Tower in an effort to go ahead and resurrect one of the individuals that Davos had I suppose, saved from the area in the past, and this was known as he was known as Mosing, one of the followers of Lathander, and a relatively old kind of name. It's roughly 200 years ago that he was found. So upon returning his body to Lightwatch Tower for burial, there was a ceremony completed for the burial, and our adventurers begun their trek back towards the Lonesome Coach, the roadside inn that is on the main, I suppose, trade route between Baldur's Gate and Waterdeep. Now, upon having a relatively exhausting evening and day of burying coffins and putting them in the ground, Davos has become quite exhausted, and we took a rest in the forest. Unfortunately, this location was not as safe as was initially thought to be. Our adventurers were ambushed by a group of Grung soldiers, these small frog-like men that begun, harassing the party, and eventually it was found out that they thought the individual going around with thorax at the moment, a large creature by the name of Thoju, a froghemoth, seems to be some kind of godlike figure to them. And so upon liaising through some very cunning wordplay and picture drawing by Magnus, our adventurers have been able to go ahead and parley favour with some of the troop and head their way towards the, I suppose, civilization that these creatures have. They come down through a valley, and at the bottom can see that there is a swamp that has been largely sort of altered from the natural state. There's a large pyramid that rises in the center of the swamp, and off to the sides there's a whole heap of shaded areas that have been created where Grung, these small frog-like humanoids, are running around in the middle of the day, finding shade in certain places, and generally just wallowing in the swamp. Our adventurers, upon arrival, were met by three elders, these older frogs, all looking relatively shamanic, and Beleaguer, our wizard, was presented with a scroll of comprehend languages. After inscribing the scroll into her spellbook, she cast it as ritual and was able to understand the frogs. Now, the party continues downhill into the swamp and is heading towards the center, where there is a large pyramid in the middle of this swamped area. So, is anyone doing anything else besides sort of following this guard of Grung that are in front of you currently?
I obviously can understand what they're saying, but
Yep.
I don't want them to cotton on that I can actually understand what they're saying, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm making myself look distracted, but I'm listening into their conversation.
Okay, cool. So just go ahead and roll a deception check for me.
8.
8. Fantastic. You see that one of them is, not super concerned with the party and is just kind of, he's at a point now where he's swimming. They can no longer reach the bottom of the swamp and prefer to swim anyway. They start to sort of gain a bit of distance in front of you guys. But the other is relatively clued in, kind of like looking over his shoulder quite a lot, carrying everything that he has over the opposite shoulder to where you are, and just constantly kind of looking back at you and the rest of the party. But you do overhear a little bit of conversation. They're just sort of like, I wonder what the elders want with them. Well, I suppose we'll just, I don't get paid enough to worry about that. And then you see the second frog, relatively suspicious looking, this red kind of skin, look back over his shoulder and is like, it's their loss anyway. And they just continue along towards this structure in the center. Now it's getting relatively deep. You guys are probably up to about near chest height, and the mud underfoot is relatively not very stable. It's quite squishy, and it's beginning to be quite a task to continue along. But is anyone you do find that you're slowing down slightly as you begin kind of wading through this area? Is anyone trying to swim, or are you all just walking along?
I would like to add, I am currently 4 levels off of being able to walk on water. Now I'm not gonna do that overnight one day, right?
Yeah.
I'm feeling this water, and I'm kind of like, I want to be on top of this water.
Yep.
And I'd like
to have the beard and the hair for it too.
Oh, thank you.
Nice.
Yep.
Cool. So if you're interested,
and the white shirt.
If you're interested in trying to walk on top of this water in some amazing fashion, I would like to get you to roll. God, what would this be? This is going to be like athletics because it's quite difficult, and you are currently just at your rib, like at the height of your ribs in the water, and you are on like a snag underwater, like a section of timber, and you have a bit of purchase, and you think, if I can spring from this and potentially like get a bit of distance, a bit of momentum, you might be able to run across the top of the water. So go ahead and roll an athletics check for me and let me know what you get.
Can I just say, out of interest, how's the halfling walking?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm very drowning. I'm really drowning.
I thought you would have been mounted atop Thoju still.
Oh, okay. No, if the folks are happy to let me do that, I'll keep doing that.
Yeah, they're happy for the moment, seeing that you're just continuing along through that area. Like Thoju is being kind of guarded, and you are sitting atop his back at the moment. So they seem pretty happy with that. But Jordan, what is the result of your roll?
That is a 19 total.
That's not bad. You begin to kind of leap from this log, and you are treading water across, getting like your hips out of the water, and it's becoming quite difficult. You manage to get like knees above water for a second. You've traveled about like maybe 10 feet, and just creating this crazy splash behind you, and then slowly you begin to sink back in. There's just not enough strength in what you were able to do to pull yourself onto the surface of the water. You think that maybe if you had a running start from the beginning, it might have been a different story, but this was interesting.
We are learning.
Fantastic.
As in, I am learning.
Yeah, and you find that you fall back into the water, and you're up to your shoulders now. It is quite deep. But it doesn't seem as though it is getting any deeper.
Can I use my minor illusion to make some bubbles up behind Falcor, like he's farting a lot, and then look at him like, phew.
Yeah, easily. Like, that's not an issue at all. You can.
You didn't have to make the bubbles. I'm doing it myself.
you actually you actually get a bit of smell as well, Magnus, and you're not.
Do a performance test check.
That's up to you. If you want to make this a big performance, let me know.
It could be valid.
I like to note that I have Druidcraft, which is a cantrip, and I can
I did it too.
create a puff of wind or the faint odor of skunk. So if you want to do one, Falcor, I'll do the other.
Fantastic. So Falcor...
Can I just say, I'm so glad that everyone's using their cantrips really wisely.
Yeah, it's useful. These are utility spells that are, functional day to day. So I'm glad to see that everyone is using
I
them.
might have to use real spell slots.
So, there's bubbles that appear behind Falcor and a bit of a stank that you weren't expecting, Magnus. And you all continue for the moment, getting to the foot of the steps of this temple, the pyramid in the center of the swamp. You begin getting to a point where you're all getting out completely soaked, like entirely through your leather armor, Magnus, and I'd imagine Ko as well. Falcor probably. All of the leather is quite soaked, and it's heavy. It is very heavy. You manage to tip water out of the scabbards that are carrying your swords. Still, your quiver has actually filled with water, and you noticed at one point that arrows were beginning to float out, and you kind of like grabbed them and pushed them back in. But generally a soaked party turning up onto the first footstep of this temple. You can see that both of the Grung that have led you here are sitting, waiting, kind of just like kicking their feet in the water at the edge of this temple. And then you hear one of them that says to you, Gabby, it just says, "Right, can you hear me yet or not?"
I just look at him and I nod.
Okay, I'm Urin, and this is Luri, and he points across at the other guy. He just says, "We're going to be accompanying you into the speaking hall, so manners is advisable. Please wait till you are spoken to."
I relay this to everybody else.
How do you spell their names? Bell?
I don't know because I can't ask them.
You know, it was.
I can't talk back to them. I can just understand them.
Yeah. So you see, so it was Urin, so Urin, and Luri, Luri. Okay, so you see that both of them begin kind of almost climbing up the outside of this structure, and it seems like it's tiered almost like an old sort of similar to Aztec style temple like a pyramid, but it's all made out of timber. There's not really any structure, like complete structure to the thing. It's just been dammed. So they begin climbing up. They go like 2 levels, 3 levels, and you all follow somewhat slow behind them, as though this is, not so easy as they make it out. But they get to the 3rd tier, and you see them waiting for a moment, and then you see Luri, who has this like bright green skin. He darts into the structure through a hole that's only about maybe 3.5 feet wide. And they begin kind of walking down. Urin stays outside, waiting for the rest of you to make your way up. So are you all following Luri in?
Can I kind of pull someone aside? Maybe Magnus, and be like, I'm not sure whether Thorax is the right person to take into an important meeting.
You also get the idea that Thoju is not going to fit through this hole.
So maybe we can say that he needs to look after Thoju, so he doesn't have to come and join us inside.
Let me talk to him. And so I go over to Thorax and I say, "Hey, buddy."
Hello. Do you have children? It's hard work.
I don't have any children of my own, no, but I can see how hard you're working, and you've got this glow about you. Parenthood suits you.
You can have some of my children if you want. How about the ones in there?
Let's discuss that later. I
Tell them
was
I
just
said it's
thinking.
fine.
Sorry, what was that?
Tell them I said it's fine for you to be their new parents.
Thanks.
Or
man.
at least godparents.
That's really sweet. I'd love to be their godparents.
Then it's settled.
I feel good. So Thorax, it's probably going to be like super boring in there, and I don't think Thoju's going to fit. So do you want to hang out here with him?
I would, but I'm kind of hungry. I do what I feel is the food equivalent to this, but I'm not particularly smart, so I just mash my hands together.
Yep.
I just kind of raise an eyebrow at him, but I'll like take out some dry rations. And be
Does he make aeroplane noises when he feeds them to me?
He does not.
I refuse. I do the whole.
I'm just gonna like chuck it to Thoju then, and then keep walking.
Cool. You see Thoju just
I
like
sensory fart. I do a Druidcraft fart for Magnus as he walks away.
yeah, it starts to smell like real bad of skunks. And you're not sure whether it's the structure in front of you, Magnus, but it just is it smells terrible. You're not sure what's going on.
And I go up to Bell and I'm like, I'm never certain what he's going to do, but I think he'll probably stay out here.
I raise my eyebrow and I'm like, all right, so who's going to come with me? I feel like someone needs to have an eye on Thorax because I just don't trust him.
Oh, come.
I'm very curious. I'd like to see what's in there.
I'll look after Thorax.
That'll end well.
Falcor?
I will come with you because I might find stuff to steal.
Of course you will.
Fantastic.
Falcor?
I'm ashamed of who I am.
But you aren't really, are you?
No.
I slump against the back of the structure and just like shut my eyes a little bit.
It's relatively.
I'm still looking around, but not carefully.
Okay.
Question.
Yes.
Yes, Sil.
Sorry. When we were fighting before, there was a particular. I believe he was red. A red Grung? I think he was red. He was particularly well armored, and I fought hand to hand with him, and it was pretty cool. And he didn't go down. What happened to that guy? Have we seen him while we've walked towards him into this swamp?
Yeah, he is actually one of the guard. This is Urin.
Very good, because maybe I should challenge him to a duel. Just putting it in the bank, or like sparring. I don't know, one or the other.
For sure. You see that occasionally, like he has been looking across the party, like while you have all been walking, like around, and making your way here. He kind of scoffs occasionally as you are all coming across the water, but generally a little unimpressed. But he kind of in those moments of battle, you do remember him kind of. There was that mutual respect on the battlefield, but you do notice that as the group that is going inside, so this is Sil, Beleaguer, Magnus, Ko, and Falcor, are you going inside or are you going to stay outside with Davos and Thorax?
Hey. Chris.
Well, sorry, I was the first to answer that one. Okay. I will take a look inside.
Okay, fantastic.
So I'm guessing he's probably with us.
Cool. So you see that as you begin going down through this almost like arranged tunnel, like the timber has been, set very haphazardly, but it seems to be supporting this tunnel structure. Occasionally there's a very large log that's been placed to stop it from collapsing. But you begin heading down into the structure slightly, and it gets darker. And you notice that as you begin heading down through these timbers, mostly you're focusing on your feet. Like stepping on branches that aren't going to crack, knowing that you're much larger than these creatures. And I'd say that probably Sil, Falcor, and Magnus, you guys would be hunched over and probably like on hands and knees almost, like getting through this tunnel. Beleaguer and Co are slightly smaller. You're able to just sort of hunch and make your way down. You begin noticing that the light fades from around you, like the sunlight that has been illuminating the cavern as you head down, and you notice that there's a different light source that begins to take place, and initially it just transitions from this yellow golden sunlight into more whitish light. And as you get closer towards the center, following these two guards down, you notice that they begin to get a bit of a bluish glow to them. And as you head further and further into the center of this structure, you notice that the glow becomes very intensely blue. And looking around, you can see that on the surface of these pieces of timber, there's occasionally sections of fungus that are growing, that are illuminating the area. And as you come down, following the guards, you can see that they begin to move aside, and that it opens into a relatively large chamber that would be in the center of this structure. You can see that as you walk in, the majority of this area has been laid out as though the flooring has been thatched. It is relatively flat, and probably the most uniform surface that you can see anywhere nearby. But craning your necks to the sky as you all walk in, you can see that there is just an absolute star field of this luminous fungi that is across the timbers that are above you. There's a bit of a smell of decaying timber and the rising sort of dank swamp smell, but other than that, you can see that in the center of the room there is a large trunk that has been cut, as though this structure has been built around where an ancient tree was. And the trunk sits about 3 feet off of the ground, so that you can see that most of the Grung in here, there are the three red-skinned shamans that you saw before, and gave you the spell Beleaguer. And you can see that they are standing on the opposite side and looking across this tree trunk at you as you all enter.
Yeah. So obviously I'm just waiting there until they address us to go closer or to talk to them.
For sure. You see them wait for a moment as the rest of you come in. You see that there is one of these Grung, the one that actually handed you the scroll Beleaguer. He looks up, looks across at you. You just hear, "Can you understand what I am saying?"
I say yes, and I bow down, a respectful bow. Except they can't understand what I'm saying, but it's something they know that I'm responding and I'm bowing down, so it's respectful.
He looks to the two shamans that are standing next to him, and they both kind of nod at the exchange. And he's like, "This is good. I am Akal. What are you doing with that beast? Did you find it? Did you slay it?"
It's hard. I'm trying to think of the best way to explain it. I look at the other
Charades.
Charades is the best way. I explain what has been conversed already to everybody else, and then I signal if someone else wants to help with translation.
I am approximately something like 8 levels off of being able to comprehend all languages. So I'm feeling I'm able to use my key in a violent way and, attack other people with it.
Yep.
Channel it. Maybe I can start using it for good towards connecting with others. Can I just try and get a bit of how
you can go ahead.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and roll an insight check to see
Yes.
kind of the nature of the others that are in the room. So currently you can see that there are the 3 across the table from you and the 2 guards that have led you in. But other than that, you don't see anyone else. But you can let me know what your insight roll is, and you might pick up something on what the guards are kind of doing or saying.
We have a grand total of 13.
There was something in that nod, to the other shamans from the main guy, Akal. And you're not 100% sure what, but it doesn't seem like it's pertaining to you guys. It's almost as though it was about, the scroll. But nothing else really. You aren't understanding the language. To you, it's just sounding like all of these croaks and squeaks, and it's not really coming through. However, Beleaguer, Akal looks up at you as you begin trying to like fumble through.
Explain.
You're like, what? You turn
And then
back
I was like,
to,
and then I put my finger up as in like an idea.
Mhm.
And then I kind of hobble over to pretend to be an old like figure. And then I like pretend to do slashes. And then I put my hand down to like my hip.
Yep.
To be like the halfling.
Yep.
And then something, and that he's got like he loves the frog.
Fantastic. Roll a performance check for me.
Yeah, this is not going so well. 19 and whatever else it's going to be. Yeah, just 19.
Cool. So what were you trying to convey?
I was trying to convey that we got them through a fight. Like we obtained him through a fight, but our halfling has grown fond of the frog.
Cool. He looks back at you and he says,
just like that.
so, if I hear you correctly, you find creature, small man finds creature after big battle. Yes?
I nod.
Do you understand the significance of this creature to us?
I shake my head.
I kind of look at him like, oh man, I hate being left out of a conversation. What's going on?
Yeah. He begins explaining to you,
Oh, fine.
Beleaguer.
Yeah.
He motions you towards the trunk, and is just looking down at the surface.
Yeah. So with that little space between what he was explaining, I then convey that the frog behemoth is significant to this clan or this culture, and that he's explaining the significance to me.
Okay. Thanks,
Cool.
Bill.
And he's looking
I can
around,
get a hit.
looking around currently, and he looks at you, Beleaguer, and he just says, "Please tell your friends to come close."
I turn back to my friends and then I motion for them to come closer.
I'm too trusting, and so I go.
Great. So you all kind of walk up towards this trunk, and you can see at the moment that rather than just the tree rings that would have been, growing continuously with the tree, there's etchings across the top of it. And as you get close, he kind of you see Akal look across at the other two shamans, and they both place their hands forward and onto the tree stump itself. You see that they begin saying something, and Beleaguer, you notice this as some kind of magical incantation, and you see their hands glow for a second, and then throughout the top of this trunk, you can see that lines of light begin extending from their hands, as though this is some kind of modified light spell. And you can see that initially the three beams from each of them begin coming towards the center of the tree trunk, just along straight paths. And it gets to the center, and there's some kind of illumination, very, very bright for a moment. And you can see that they have become one beam. And the beam begins going around through all of these crevices across the tree trunk. And you can see that tree stump. Sorry. You can see that the line begins to broaden slightly as it goes past you first, Falcor, and you can see that it becomes a very large frog-looking creature. You watch as the light begins to fill from its feet up towards its head, and you notice that the mouth is open. The light then goes out of this creature's mouth and begins becoming, what looks something like a waterfall. There is a waterfall that comes out from this creature and begins pooling into a structure that past you, Ko, looks as though there is some kind of, swamp habitation. There's little tents that you can see and a whole heap of surface water that is kind of rippling, and whether it's the magical light that's just very thin and passing across the top of this trunk, or whether it's actually a some trick of the light in here from this luminescent fungi, you can see that it looks like water on the surface, and a giant tree sort of erupts from the center. You can see that as it passes you, Beleaguer, that a whole heap of beads of light begin kind of flashing. You see that after each one of them has flashed, there is a small frog that is left behind. And then you see that there is the light continuing past you, Magnus, and the light begins to... you see that there are 3 frogs that are carved into the surface in front of you, and each time the light comes towards you, it comes towards one of the frogs, it illuminates brightest near the head, and then it continues into the next one and illuminates again, and then into the third and illuminates once more. And you can see then that as this continues around past you towards Syl in front of you, you can see that as you've been watching this almost like a story occur across the surface of the trunk, there is finally a whole heap of these individuals that begin pulling sections of tree that, you see that there are almost farming style of a farming style of life that is developing from these creatures, and there is spears and arrows and bows and hoes and crops and gardens and all of these things that are illuminated along the path. And as the light begins to sort of circle back towards the center of the tree, it just stays lit for approximately the next minute or so, and you all have this image in front of you.
Wow.
I feel like yucking up song coming on.
I just thought we had the best quote of the session, which is bows and hoes. So that's the big takeaway for me.
Fantastic.
We'll create our own Dungeons and Dragons and call it bows and hoes.
Very nice.
So I look at the others and say, how should we approach Thorax? It's obviously a very sensitive subject to them.
Well, what do they want from us?
Yes. As you begin talking to Syl, Beleaguer, you see that Akal looks up and he says, "This is the creation myth. Giant heavenly frog spewed forth the world and gave us the power of language. We went forth and colonized the swamps of Faerun. Our people survived because of him. He taught us things that we would not have known. You tell me."
I nod. Sorry, do you want to keep
No,
going?
that's okay. As you nod.
So, I nod and I put my hands up as what do you want? And do a give sign. So I'll do it what do you want from us?
You say the small man loves the frog.
I nod.
This is good. These creatures are bad when mistreated. But it has caused quite the ruckus. Word has spread quickly. People want to know what happens next. We used to have grounds where we could pray to the old gods. Like your creature here, sometimes they visit, spend time. We feed them with feasts. But it has been taken by many
dark creatures. And our people have not gone there for fear several years.
So I put my finger up as in like 1 minute, and then I bow down, and then I explain this to everybody else.
Hmm.
And then say, what should we do? I'm guessing that they want to either have the Froghemoth or for us to destroy it.
Destroy the Froghemoth. No, well, they haven't. Nah, we can't.
Well,
We can't do that.
how do
But
we separate
this-
Thoju from Thorax?
Well,
I stay here and live like a king.
It doesn't sound like they've asked us to. Exactly. They have like a sacred place, more or less, that they can no longer go. Correct.
That's what it seems. Well,
So-
that's what they would have said to you, Beleaguer. Yeah, and that it has been
Yeah.
overrun by evil creatures.
See, I don't think we're going to separate. Nothing can separate Thorax from his adopted child. So, if we want to keep them together, I think we need to help these people. Or else I don't think they're going to let us leave.
I'd like to know more about these dark creatures, exactly what that involves, what they are.
They're probably just like physically dark, like brown and black. Like
They're racist friends.
I
They
don't
have,
know.
they have a lot of mud on them, you know, like it's
yeah, yeah.
They are darkened creatures.
So I look at them.
Yep.
And then I do like a creatures or like a monster, and then I put my hands up because in more, if that makes sense, for more information.
What does it look like
Yeah.
when you're trying to say monster to them?
Sorry?
What does
Yeah.
it look
like
look?
drill, like
Yeah,
like
are you
Thriller,
like?
Thriller.
Why don't they have an understand language spell as well?
Because they gave Gabby the scroll
be
and she
smart.
didn't give it back.
Can you
You're so welcome.
Oh, man.
So
They were saving that.
So, as you mime out that you want to know more about the creatures, you see that he says,
Our temple's many, many miles north of here, in the swamp. It used to be a place of rest, a place of pilgrimage for our people, but now it heads off to dark creatures, those that would harm others, taking life from individuals.
Beleaguer, the Hag's book, it had something about the Froghemoth and the swamp she found it in. Should we check that?
So I put my finger up like this.
Mhm.
I get my book out and
Yep.
I show it, and I flip through and see if there's anything with the Froghemoth.
Cool. You begin flicking
And
through
so-
the Hag's notebook around the pages where there was kind of the notes taken about, Froghemoth, bad idea. Swamp was terrible terrain. And as it begins going along a little further, there's a triangle that has been drawn that looks like it's something that has been sort of, she's got structure, not sure, question mark. And then on the next line, you can see that there is a circle that has been carved. And at the top of it, there are two fangs that stick down. That's
So
as soon as you flip to that page, you see that Akal stops and he is like,
Zotzilia.
and he is touching the rune, the picture that has the fangs and the circle around it.
I relay all this information to them and ask, what are people's thoughts? Should we go and check it out?
Can you like gesture at the symbol and do the "we don't know what it is" gesture again and see if they can tell us anything about it?
So I point at the fangs and do the question.
Zotzelia is a creature that is a very, very dark entity of the underworld. We have spent many years attempting to find knowledge about, but it says he is undying. Many people form cults to him. We do not wish to tread those grounds. They say he takes
I relay
life
this.
and leaves corpses.
Am I familiar with Zotzelia? Have I heard of it before?
Roll a religion check.
Ooh, religion. Where's Davos when we need him?
Can you find
I'm
your
sitting out
religion?
here with Thorax and Thoju.
I'm imagining
I rolled a
Davos.
natural 20. That was a natural 20 on
I thought you
religion.
were about to say 1. I was like, oh shit.
Fantastic. A natural 20, the first one of the evening. Well done, Magnus. So you know of Zotzelia. It has come up in readings that you have had about extraplanar entities. You have seen that he is a part of the underworld, hailing from the Hells, and he is known colloquially as the vampire god. You know that.
Bullshit.
You know that it is
I'm
unlikely.
cautiously optimistic.
You know that it is unlikely that he is inside of the temple, but there is likely a. It seems as though perhaps a cult of his has taken up residence.
Okay, I let my friends know about this, and I'm just sort of like, man, when Davos finds out about this, he's going to be all paladin smash.
Yep.
I
He looks across at. You see that Akal looks across at you, Beleaguer, and he says,
What is it your friends are saying?
I explain
Not
that
allowed.
they're talking. Sorry. Do you want to say something?
No.
Or can I keep going?
"Go for it, Belle."
All right, so I go. They're talking about the monster.
Could you help us? Promise you anything inside the temple.
I relate
Get them to promise themselves. We need more party members. They're inside the temple. Also some fungus. It's probably good that I didn't go with you guys.
I know, right?
You're just
There's a
taking
reason why
just
I
taking
keep it
light bulbs
out.
out of someone's house. So
So I relay this.
Uh,
I say anything?
And I look at her and I go, I guess so.
Well, if you make it out
Okay.
alive, then anything you can carry is yours.
I wish I
I-
had a bag of holding.
I think we need to talk to Thorax and Davos first. We probably shouldn't make this decision without everyone being on board. Though Davos probably will, as I said, paladin smash mode.
And if this will keep Thoju with Thorax, I think.
Do we really want
That's-
Thoju? Really?
I feel like
I'm
you're
actually
trying to
giving you
ditch
guys.
him.
I was actually
He might have
giving you guys
matured.
an option. I was actually giving you guys an option to ditch him here. And no one's taken it. Everyone's
No
like,
one's
no,
taken
we
it.
need to separate them. I'm like, okay, but we can.
Well,
We should
Beleaguer,
probably go back.
I feel like a cult of a vampire god could have some things that we might be quite interested in.
And
I
a
agree.
large giant frog could help keep us alive. Just saying.
And then we can keep it. And then we can keep it here. We'll see.
Perhaps.
We'll talk about this later.
We'll
Let's
see
let
what,
outside.
So-
what they want.
At this
So
point,
then
oh yeah, what were you going to say? Sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, I put in like 1 minute, talk to the others, like outside, gesturing the people that are outside,
Cool. You
and
see,
then like bow down.
yeah, you see Akal look back across the table towards you, and he says,
Please take your time, but if we could perhaps have the large beast in town for part of the day, it would be good to help with people's morale. We have not had a festival in many years.
I gesture because I gesture that they can have it all the time. But then I'm like, we better go.
That is generous. I will organize for the festivities. Thank you. You are excused.
and then you
I
see
bow
that.
down and I.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Sorry.
No, that's good.
I was gonna say I bow down and gesture to everybody else to bow, like, or to say thank you in their own ways.
Fantastic. And you all kind of head down as you see the 3 shamans kind of standing back up, and they begin gathering kind of more towards the back of the room away from the table. And you can see that they're moving towards like a little alcove that's been like carved out. There's a little sconce that has been set up there, a couple of little items on top of it. If anyone actually... Ko, I'm sure that your eyes have been flicking around this chamber. So go ahead and
Hells
roll.
yeah.
Go ahead and roll a perception check.
12.
Okay, cool. From here, your eyes like adjusting to the light. You haven't been able to see as much as you would in a room that was either magically illuminated or, you know, sunlit, coming from a very bright day outside.
I have dark vision though.
Yeah, for sure. So you can still see. It's not the greatest, but you can definitely see. Across the room, you can see that on this sconce there is a couple of feathers that have been almost arranged into like a headdress of some sort. There is a crystal ball that is sitting atop the sconce and atop the little sort of table that's there, and there is also a little pouch sitting atop it as well. But you kind of see this, and the 2 frog guard, your friends Urin and Aluri, begin to usher you all back out of the place.
Does it look important to them?
Yeah, all 3 shamans are like walking towards it at the moment and beginning to like, I suppose, stand around it, and they're conversing. So do remember that these creatures are roughly halfling sized, maybe even a slightly smaller, and they are, yeah, all over in that corner of the room right now. But you're being...
Are they focusing on each other?
No, they're kind of arranged around this table.
Can they see me? Or can
Yes.
they kind of like vanish?
Sorry?
Can I vanish and kind of go and have a close look at the objects and stealthily
Do
kind of
you-
like, ooh, what this?
Okay, do you have the invisibility spell?
No.
Then you're probably not going to be able to vanish. The guards and everyone in this room is very well aware of your presence because you have been standing around.
Okay,
for
I
the
go outside.
happenings. Yeah. So, like, you can't literally.
Don't tempt me and say I can't do it.
No, I was just saying that you could see these things in case you were interested in what they were, but that is fine. You do head outside back into the sunlight, and you can see that Davos currently kicked back, and a couple of pieces of his like chainmail he's been shaking out. Thorax, you're sitting atop Thoju at the moment, and see that everyone begins sort of spilling back out onto the structure. So what have you guys been up to chilling out here? Anything that you wanted to have done?
I was having a D&M with my horse, who's a while away, but we can we can communicate telepathically
Yes.
over a mile.
Yeah. So your horse is
New.
okay. Anything in particular?
Alex, Davos, is it clear that you are telepathically talking in your face? Can I tell just by looking at your face that you're
No.
telepathically?
No, I've got a very serious face, except that's usually my normal
It
face.
always does.
Okay. I constantly ask Davos questions about his horse.
Nice.
I talk telepathically with my horse and pretend that I'm just really knowledgeable about the horse, but really I'm just asking those questions in relay.
Nice. So you're essentially just relaying information back from the horse, and it's just saying, "Yes, I was a gift from Lathander. Yes, it is strange
Except now Nefaris thinks that I ask very stupid questions.
Yeah. It's not, like of course, like you cast the spell, man. Like you know what's going on. This is odd. But yeah, so you guys see that the rest of your party begins to join you back on top of this structure, and you all come back outside into the bright day, and the day is yours currently.
So, should we tell them about what we heard? We heard some stuff.
Yeah, but
take it away.
Oh no,
Me?
I think you should, Beleaguer. You're the one communicating. Why don't you let them know what's up?
Okay. So I said that we were summoned in with the elders, and that they showed us the history of how their creation began, which started off with a froghemoth, and that's why Thoju is so important to them. And I said that they've got a structure of worship that has been overrun by dark figures, which are like have a vampire
What
background.
the fuck?
And then
Secret feature overrun by undead things. Oh, we gotta do that. We gotta get rid of that.
They didn't say undead. At least the croaking didn't sound like undead croaking. Just saying.
Okay. Well, all evil is evil.
That
I roll
actually,
my eyes.
they didn't know about the nature of the being. They just said a word that I recognized, Davos, which you probably would as well, which was Zotazilia, the vampire god. So
Oh,
we believe
shit.
it's a cult to Zotazilia. So they're probably.
Do I know about
living
that? I've got a religion.
Yeah, roll a religion check.
I've also been drinking.
Has Davos been drinking? Of course. Why else?
He sounds very hammer and sword ho at the moment.
11.
11. Like
12.
being so opposed to the style of, religion that you follow, you would have a rough idea, but you know he's a bad dude. You're not super in like having that idea about what he does, what he like who he is, but you definitely know that he's a bad guy.
We must fight. We must fight him.
See, didn't I call it? I totally called it.
Yeah, you did. I mean, no one argued with you.
I also heard you call it. That might have influenced me.
Okay.
Cool.
So Thorax,
Yeah.
I think if we go to this place and see if we can clear these guys out for them, they'll probably be pretty grateful. And I guess you probably want to make your kids happy.
Well, yes and no, because I feel they should also do their things for themselves, like chores. Like, this room is messy. I point broadly to the swamp.
I think, Thorax, I mean, I would defer to your knowledge since I am not a parent.
Correct.
But perhaps the ability to know when they're in over their heads and ask for help is an admirable one.
Oh, did they say that?
Yeah, sure.
Very nice.
I'll allow it. I turn Thorax in whichever direction I feel is most likely the direction, because I probably don't actually know the direction, and giddy him up to start sloshing away in that direction.
I go, wait, Thorax, you're gonna miss the party.
There's a party.
Is there a D&D version of the record scratch noise? I go.
It's just
Alright,
fingernails.
change of mind. Party first. Across the lute.
Yeah, it's just fingernails across a lute string.
The twanging of a lute.
Or a nearby
Actually, I go
trumpeter
change.
stops trumpeting.
Change of plans. Party first. Quest later. And then I just start to take off my shirt.
Cool.
Nice.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Nice.
It's so hairy.
And slimy too. Very
Some
slimy.
of this is lichen, I say.
A lot of this is like
Yeah.
yeah, and it is. It like quite literally is a lot of it is lichen.
Yeah.
Magnus vomits a little bit in his mouth.
And a little bit.
And swallows
Yep.
it. And swallows
He
it
looks
back.
like a tree.
Nice. So, what are you all doing? You're all just kind of chatting about this at the moment. You haven't been given any like directions towards the temple or anything like that.
I think we need to know more about dark creatures. We need to find out
I
more
think
about
we
that.
only.
Yeah. We need to know more and where to go. Like, where is
Yeah,
this?
where to go?
We also need to
Where
tell
to
them
go
that we've
is-
agreed. We hadn't
Well, I
agreed
think we
yet.
need
So
to agree first, yeah, and then
Yeah,
there'll be
no,
lots
no.
of details.
Full on smiling for me.
And what's all this party business? I sort of missed that part.
They want to keep the Froghemoth there so they can have a festival.
Oh man.
So we should go to the festival.
Yeah. So as you guys are talking amongst yourselves about what you're doing, where you're going, you can see that 3 individuals now come from within the structure where you just were, like a level below. There is a yellow individual, 1 green, and 1 that actually has like a bit of a golden skin. And all 3 of them jump from the structure extremely like far out into the pond, dive into the water, and you see that they come up about 50 feet away. And they're just going in 3 different directions. One of them is heading towards like the shaded pool area when you first got into the ponds. One of them is heading straight back towards like where their little town is, I suppose, and another is heading in the opposite direction, away from the pond, away from the town.
Oh wow. I wonder what they're doing. Can we ask them?
You can
can't
yell
really talk.
in Common or Sylvan or whatever you'd like to yell in.
I choose Elven.
Fantastic.
Elven.
You scream out in Elven, just attempting to get someone's attention. What are you saying?
I'm saying, where are you going? But like louder. I'd yell that there's people in this house.
That's also
So,
fair,
like,
and we don't want
where are
to
you
blow the
going?
ears
But
out
it-
of anyone that's listening.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of like, "Whoa."
Luke, can I use minor illusion to like throw my voice?
Thaumaturgy actually is able to do that, so you can create.
So-
You can use your voice to become like 3 times louder or something like that.
I just
but
wanted to make like a voice from further away,
let
like a
me-
noise.
Like an alter self?
me just go ahead.
Or like a caster noise.
Alter Self, the world's most giant like voice box ever. Just comes
Big
out as like
box.
subsonic.
Yeah.
Let me just see. So minor illusion is able to create a sound or image of an object within range, so within 30 feet, that lasts for the duration. So 30 feet from where you are, Magnus, you could create a sound that's probably the loudest sound that you could create. You'd be essentially like magically transferring your voice 30 feet from where you are.
So in like a froggy type voice, but in Elven, it's gonna say, What is he gonna say? He's gonna be like, away
Can
from
you
your
actually
ugly
do it
face.
though? Can you actually do it for us?
And in real
Frog
Elven.
voice.
Yeah,
He's
do
gonna
you-
be
Yeah.
like,
performance.
I love it. Inspiration.
Wow.
Durka, durka, durka.
Herkadirk. Durkadur.
So it was an elvish frog voice saying back, away from your ugly face.
Cool. You see a few confused faces amongst the frogs that are milling about in the pond, but no real recognition as such.
But any from Syl.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Syl,
got that.
you hear exactly what he's saying. And does anyone else speak Elven?
I think I might. Actually, do I? No, I don't.
I do.
Still.
Yeah, so Falcor, you can hear this voice coming from about 30 feet away. What did you say again, Magnus?
Away from your ugly face, to Syl's question.
Right.
So it's like the frogs are yelling that back at him. And then I also turn to Syl and I say, did you hear what that frog said to you?
I put my ear out and said, "Oh, I was a bit muffled."
Fantastic. So, you could actually hear it while you have this comprehend languages going, Beleaguer. But you
I
do...
didn't pretend I do it because I don't want to humour them.
Yeah, there's no reason to. But you are all standing around, realizing that you have informally, amongst yourselves, accepted the quest to remove any evil presences from this temple that these creatures had at one point in their life used quite a lot. So you can either, from where you are, head back into the temple and let them know that this is what you will be doing. Or, I mean, go party. Like run around the town, do whatever the hell you want. But up to you guys.
Can we do both?
Yeah. Why?
Definitely both.
Whoa.
Very good.
All right.
It doesn't need to be
Yeah.
unanimous.
Girl.
It's not.
Cool.
We go in, right? Hear me out. We go into the temple and we give them the internationally recognized symbol of like being all in, which is we all go in a circle, put our hands in the middle of the circle, and we go like, "Go Ducks," or like, whatever team name
We also
choose.
need that freeze frame kind of thing in the air after we jump.
Just a
Like,
chomp.
Any way you want, that's the way you need.
Yeah.
Any
I was
way
thinking
you
more of
want.
the Toyota had, but like,
Fantastic. Okay, so I'll say
we do a montage of the rest of our day.
yeah. For the sake of brevity, you go back inside, and they are happy to hear that you are accepting this quest. And it is communicated to you that they do not intend to take Thoju, unless it is a gift that you would be willing to give. You go ahead and they give you directions to the temple, which is further away from the road. It's roughly 3 miles to the... What would this be? I'm just looking at my map of Faerun, which I finally got printed out.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's amazing. It would be further to the northeast, into the High Moor, which is essentially this section of swamp that you've gone through the Misty Forest into now. You're kind of out of the forest and onto this like moorish plains area. And as you go ahead and sit atop this structure, you can see around for relatively like decent amount of miles. There's definitely like vapors coming off of the swamp that obscure your vision for many miles, but way off in the distance, you can see that there is a bit of a deformation in the landscape, and that you would be heading towards that structure.
Can I, I've got 2 ideas of things we could potentially ask them that might be helpful.
Yep.
One is, can we ask them if Oren will accompany us as a guide, at least to where the swamp is? I mean, if he wants to come into the temple, sure, but at least to guide us there.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, can they give us somewhere to stay for the night so we can get a long rest before we go?
Yes.
And also, maybe if one of the elders won't go, perhaps that red, really, combat prowess kind of frog
that's what I was
will
talking about.
You're
Yeah.
Oh, I
broken.
just he's like he's muscly, but like disturbingly so.
Yeah, he's very he's like a buff frog, very buff frog.
Yeah, Urin
So-
was the buff one, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
Urin
wait, I thought-
Urin
Yeah.
was the
Oh.
red guard that had caught you guys initially, and Luri is the green guard. And then
Right, so they were guards.
yeah,
So we'd like Urin to accompany us if he would. And long rest. Those are things we would like.
so yeah,
And
through
maybe a
it.
map, just in case. Just in case.
They don't have a map of the area as such, but they kind of, they tell you that Urin, I will get the name eventually. They tell you that Urin is a wonderful tracker, and he will be able to guide you there with no issue. He's a bit of an outdoorsman that is able to get to and from the location. He will stop before getting close to the structure. But that is just due to them not wanting to tread anywhere nearby until they know that the presence has disappeared. So they
All right, cool.
they tell you you're welcome to any hollow that you can find that is unaccompanied come sunset, and this seems to be the way that they go about their life here. Is just where you pull up to sleep, you sleep. And then you wake up the next day and go about the swamp, doing your business. You're either growing animals or growing like worms in the mud. You're trying to teach the children, go hunting, all of these kinds of things to serve the community.
And dual Urin, perhaps?
For sure.
In unarmed combat?
It's difficult to get the idea across for a while because Beliga, your spell actually fades after this this second meeting. It's been about an hour now since you did cast this ritual spell, and as soon as you notice that they kind of say thank you, Urin will be up at dawn to take you out to the site. And at that point, you begin walking back out, and their conversation begins to devolve back into a series of croaks and squeaks as you get outside of the temple. So you now know that you would have to, perform another ritual spell to get your comprehend languages back, which you can do at any time. It just takes 15 minutes. And Sil, you can see that both Luri and Urin have followed you guys back outside after escorting you into the temple for a second time, and they are both just beginning to head back down the temple.
So, did you want to do that ritual, Bell, Gavin? Or are you
Should
pretty-
we, I was going to
how are you
say,
feeling?
should we have a look? I was thinking, so I can do that, that's fine. What do we feel like doing? Is the festival already starting like the same night? Or is it when we're leaving the next day?
You can see that already.
As we walk out.
There are just people running around, hopping about really, and some of them are carrying like large sections of bark that have grubs and insects and fruit and everything else that you could imagine piled up. And it's surprising how easily they carry these hopping about without spilling anything. And they're just beginning to lay them around like near the shoreline of where you had initially walked down. A few of these I suppose offerings almost are being placed near the water's edge, and you see that as the night progresses further and further, that more and more of the individuals are dressed in clothing that is made of animal skins and feathers, and there is some leathers amongst it, but mostly it is this very tribal style of dress that these people are wearing, and that it is something that would have been much, much more, ceremonial than their day-to-day wear. And the afternoon wears on, but before we get too far, was there anything that anyone else wanted to do throughout the day? So I know Sil's interested in having a bit of a mano y mano with Urin. What else is people doing
While
with Great English?
Sil challenges Urin to a duel, I would like to challenge Luri to a dance battle.
Oh, the real show of skill.
That's truth. So, you see that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Beliga.
I was gonna say, depending on what people do, like if people are just doing that kind of stuff, you don't really need me to be able to understand what people are saying. But if we want to discuss and find out where we're staying, and like if people want to use the shops and stuff, then that's something I should
True.
probably use.
That's
So it depends
wise.
on what people want to do.
They probably wouldn't sell us much useful stuff unless we were also frogs. But hey, maybe they could armor Thoju.
Ah, shit.
Actually, it'd probably take a while, but
He'd be like a Megazord.
My God, you can probably eat the armor though. Probably
Yeah,
just
he would.
hungry and like yum.
Mech frog.
Yeah.
That'd be hilarious.
Alright, so I'm guessing we've let ourselves out from the Elders Council.
Yeah.
Because we would
Yeah.
just stay around there.
Yeah.
So I just say to everyone that I guess we have 15 minutes until I can understand it again. If people want to just have a rest or something, then I'll just sit down for 15 minutes and redo it.
I say I'm going to have a long rest. How early in the night is it?
I mean, at the
It doesn't
moment,
matter. I have a long rest.
cool. At the moment, it's about like mid-afternoon. It's not super late in the day, but you know that if you take a long rest now, you'll wake up in the evening when the festivities are like in full swing.
So old woman.
All right,
You can
I
complain
definitely
about them.
I'm gonna rest
I'd
till
say,
most of the party's
learn
over.
everything you can about those evil things, and I'm very tired. And I have a long rest. Is there a long rest area I can sleep in?
Well, we were going to try and find some lodging at some point.
I
We
mean,
still need 15 minutes for me to understand
How
the
about-
language.
yeah. So
How
Bell,
about we wait those 15 minutes and then we go find our lodging?
that sounds good to me. So, Beliga,
The
you
other
sit.
thing is,
Yeah.
sorry,
No, that's okay.
I was going to say once I understand it too, maybe they'll have like a library, and because I can actually understand written languages, like if it's written in their language, I can actually find more information.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's another possibility.
Perhaps, yeah. If you would like to go ahead, I'm just going to get everyone to roll a perception check while you are sitting atop this structure, and Beliga is reading from her spellbook.
13.
5.
16, 5, 11,
24.
9.
24, 8, 9.
I rolled frog.
You rolled frog. Okay, so
9,000.
before you can see the majority of this civilization is mostly tented. There is not any large structures besides the one that you are sat atop. The areas that seem to be places where people feed are at the shoreline of the swamp, and the only place that you could imagine any repository of wisdom, such as a library, would be within the structure. And from what you saw, the largest part of it would have been that chamber in the center that you were amongst earlier. So you don't know that there would be a library. You can definitely ask around and see if anyone's got books of any sort, but you don't know that you'd find any significant religious information in this area. That'd definitely be something of a more, what would you call it, like urban nature, where there'd be a library that had information about things like that. But you do also see that there are many, I suppose, woven sections of tree frond and like plant matter that have created these almost lean-tos that are, along the forest line that you walked past when you were first coming down. And this looks like an area where you would be able to sleep. So yeah.
And can I point them out and be like, that looks like a good place to sleep, guys?
Yeah, you
It
see
looks
it.
like it'll
We
be
need
free
lily
too.
pads. Are there any lily pads?
Roll a,
Water
what
beds?
was your perception
lily
score,
pads.
Falcor?
13.
13. You do see that there are like macrophytes, like these aquatic plants that are growing up out of the swamp. And there's some sections that have got like very thick, like the leaves look as though along the stalk there are almost like flotation, like buoyancy, like bubbles that grow on the stem, and it makes sure that there is this thick layer of organic matter that's at the top of the water. Did you want to try and like go ahead and lay down on top of the plants?
I sure do, but maybe I'll get Thorax to go on there first.
Yeah, you chicken. You should do it. Do it. Maybe
Can you
take
be
your
putting
pack
Thorax
off.
if he's like half a human?
No, because he should trust this more because of his child.
But he's also like half your height. Like, so it'll be
And-
literally half your weight.
You racist.
Excuse
No,
me, I go on in the sausage dog form.
You go on in sausage dog form. Cool.
Yeah.
You jump off.
And he falls straight through.
Yeah, you jump off the back of Thoju,
He
and
misses the jump.
taking your druid shape as you jump onto the thick bed of like plant material, you do go ahead and land. Kind of, you feel as though the ground kind of like creates a bit of a wave, but you don't like sink through. It's definitely wet on top of this, but you're not sinking through. It's kind of just it's difficult keeping your legs above the surface of these plants, and you're not like in the water, but it is damp. You're mostly dry at the moment. It's just difficult to get around in. It's like stepping through thick vines that are slippery.
I bark at the lily pads in frustration.
Very good. So this is what you can see, Falcor. A small sausage dog barking at vines.
God.
Yeah, that looks pretty dicey actually then, if he's going that far down.
Yeah, he's like into his shoulders. His belly is like scraping along the tops of the vines, and just the legs are like going through. So you're not sure if it's because he's got tiny little paws or if you wouldn't be able to actually sit atop this. And as you're kind of standing here contemplating it, there's a massive splash next to you, and you see two individual grung, one purple and one golden. And they kind of like fly through the air out of the water, doing like a half turn and then landing directly on their backs on the plant material. And they're just like laying there, and they begin talking amongst themselves, just looking at you guys.
Show offs. Yeah.
Still wants to fight them, clearly.
No.
Beat 'em up.
Does
Beat 'em
anyone need anyone? I'm not a maniac who likes to fight everyone. Just worthy opponents.
Use
So we fight
eyes,
you.
your maniac eyes then.
Yeah. Yeah, they were.
So you spend the afternoon, Sil, you spend the afternoon conveying that you would like to fight Urin. And
The whole afternoon.
the whole afternoon. You're just like walking behind him, kind of like fisticuffs, and he's like really a bit, very confused. He's got no idea what's going on right now. And so occasionally
Yes.
you get in front of him and you stop him, and you like
Yes.
put up your hands and you go, you, me, like this. And
Yeah. I even like pulled out my spear and then was like, I dropped it.
Okay.
Yeah. Kidding. We're gonna use fists.
And he looks back up at you and takes the sword from his side, holds it out at arm's length and drops it, and then looks at you
Yes.
and puts his hand over like his eye line and like motions to be looking around, and then as though he's holding a staff.
Oh my god. What does he mean?
and then he holds his hands up.
Something about
You just hear,
something like a guy holding a staff. Maybe there must be some kind of ceasefire going on here, guys.
you just see him looking around. Where's the rest of the party right now?
I just
Hang
assume
around.
probably try to learn how to comprehend stuff.
Yep.
Probably.
That's basically you, Gabby. That's you in everyday life, isn't it? Well, actually, no. Your PhD is now complete.
I'm reading my book. Just reading my book.
Nice. So
I am asleep.
you are Davos. You found a little, what they've called hollows, which is just a section of ground that's slightly lower than the rest. It's a little muddy, and you've laid down what you can of the plant material about to stop it from being so muddy. And you find your way to rest, so you're going to try and get a long rest in.
Yeah.
Ko, what are you up to right now?
I'm just sitting like under anything, maybe a tree if there's one still by.
Yep.
And I am carving ornate patterns into my dick bone.
For sure. So you.
I really hope that's the sword.
So you go ahead and.
It is whatever you want it to be.
You're just kind of like one leg out, one leg kind of bent, whittling this bone away into like interesting patterns, and then you see that there's like these very small individuals that come up beside you, and they're kind of on the opposite side of the tree, and they're like peering around the corner looking at you, and then they kind of dart back when they meet your eye line, and then 2 or 3 more of the heads will like pop down from the tree above you, just looking at you and just like kind of quizzically, and then you hear all of this gibbering croaking as 2 or 3 of them run up the tree into the higher sections of it. But they're obviously interested in you, your novelty, and what you're doing here.
Well, wait, is this to me?
Yeah, they're like all around the tree.
Okay,
They're
well,
only...
I kind of like secretly smiling to myself and thinking like I totally have a posse.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm like, I totally have a fan club, and they're gonna be like my entourage and follow me around, and they'll be like in Kill Bill, like how she has like the people who go out and fight for her first.
For sure.
It's a
They
pretty
were the
good
crazy 88.
Yeah.
You hear croaking in the background. That's just like. but
I start singing it too.
very good. But so you're sitting
Thank you.
down, just doing that for the moment. Falcor, is there anything that you're interested in getting amongst besides laying on some weeds?
Can I get like drunk off frog ale and then start yelling elvish stuff at Syl, goading him to fight with that guy, holding the staff?
Sure.
Oh, you know Elvis too. Jeez, everyone knows it.
For sure. You spend a bit of time looking around, just signaling to people, drink. Takes a long time, and you don't really think, like for a while, you don't think that you're actually going to find anything. And then you see 2 Grung walking towards the water's edge with a very large vase, like between them. And it kind of is, each of them are holding a handle, and you see that at one point, like some reddish liquid like drops out of the top of it. Very, very deep burgundy-ish color.
Ooh. Can I have
Drink
it?
Drink it.
Yeah, like you can go up and see what you can do.
Yeah, let's see if I can get hammered.
Cool.
Jingle a cup at them like a homeless person asking for change. Got any booze?
So yeah, you walk up to these individuals, and there's the 2 of them, these 2 yellow Grung. They turn back around and look at you. And what are you doing?
I throw my arm over them and I kind of like pretend like we're drinking buddies and then convince them to share.
Cool. So as drinking buddies, you've definitely like done this with lots of people in the past. You walk up to someone, have a tankard in hand, which I'm assuming you have a tankard. Do you? Or do you just have like
What's that?
like a wineskin or a stein, or what are you
I'm gonna go
intending?
with like a skin kind of sack here.
Yeah, cool.
That
So
or I drink straight from the barrel.
okay, so you go ahead and have like this wineskin on you, and you put your arms around the individuals, forgetting that they do have a poisonous skin. Can you go
crap.
ahead? Can you go ahead and roll 2 Constitution saving throws for me?
Damn it! I technically wasn't here last time to know this.
Oh, that's a good point, and I haven't posted the video. Roll 1.
14.
14. Okay, you're fine. It kind of tingles a bit. It's a bit like sticky. You're not 100% sure like what might have happened just recently, but your arm's a little numb, and then
It wasn't a real party until you get sticky, man. Come on.
and so you take the wineskin and kind of motion towards one of them and like make it look like you're drinking. Just roll a persuasion check for me.
Hey, damn it, so that one is 9.
9.
Crap.
Yeah, they kind of put their hands up at you, and they just say, they just like motion towards you, and you can hear, and both of their hands like up in the air. Gabby from nearby, you can hear, just wait, it'll start soon. And one of them is turning around and pointing towards the sun, Chris, but you've got no idea what they're trying to say.
And then I give them the high 10.
Yeah, you slap their hands again. Roll a Constitution save.
Can't say you didn't know this time.
That is 13. Yes.
13, you're still good. That's no issue. So again, you get this tingle, and this time it's much more intense, and you're like, oh, that wow, that's
I'm gonna get
interesting.
high off this shit.
Do it again.
Do it again. You can.
Don't link the frog, Falcor. Don't link the frog.
It's probably a bad idea. So,
Belly.
yeah, Sil, you see that at this time,
Yeah.
Urin has been looking around, like making the looking around motion, and like very adamantly like gibbering at you now, and he's like holding the staff, and he's like points at you, staff, you, like, and points around at a couple of other people in the staff, and then he's like looking.
Can I draw my staff and then just mimic what he's doing?
Yeah, you do that, and he just like turns around and begins walking away.
Oh my god. He thinks I'm an idiot. God damn it, Frog. I'm made to look foolish by him. Now I need to kick his ass.
He's about like 15 feet away,
But not really.
and he stops for a second, puts a finger up, and turns around to you, and then hands on top of his head like this, and then staff, and then hands, and then staff, and then hands, and then staff.
So the hands are like...
It's a hand staff. No? No.
Hands are some kind
he,
of spaceship.
he points at you,
Okay,
looks,
so he wants me
hands on his head,
to go on...
staff.
I believe he wants me to go on watch or something.
Sure.
It could
How
be.
about-
It could be.
How about
Can I decipher his
yeah.
meaning from my understanding of observing him so far?
roll an insight check for me?
Where's he going with this? I need to think harder. Oh, I thought really hard because I've got a total of 25.
Fantastic.
Evidently my rolls are more powerful than my brain.
It all kind of comes together in one moment, and you realize that he wants you to find Beleaguer.
Yeah, not your wizard, my wizard. Right. With the ears, like a cat. They're not little elf ears. They'd be like there.
Like this. The cat
Yeah,
is-
Beleaguer. Where is Beleaguer?
You turn around and roll a perception check.
You should know you mocked her like this before,
I am
remember?
when you left me.
When you remember you
18.
mocked her 2
Yeah.
minutes ago?
She's-
Remember?
she's-
Still,
yeah.
remember?
This has been about 10 minutes of trying to get the frog to fight, and you're just like,
Been a
a
while.
staff? A staff? No idea. You turn back around and Belle's exactly where you left her, down near the water's edge. She's just kind of sitting amongst some ferns and, reading over her books and relaxing.
Right. Hey, Bell. I believe Urin is. Hang on. Let me use my memory extra hard for a second here. Yeah, Urin. I think he's looking for you, or he wants you to translate. I believe that's the case. So
I smile. I'm like, okay, and I
all right. So let's go find this frog. Do. Are you still with us there, Mr. DM?
I certainly am. So, you go ahead
I
and...
was
You
just
need
going
to
to
go
DM
out.
my own story. Damn.
Ugh, that would have been lovely. Go ahead.
The frog stabs Belle in the eye, and now she's like Thor. Like she's got one eye.
She's got one
she
eye.
looks badass now.
Spoilers,
Yeah,
man.
and,
Spoilers.
Yep. Belle uses necromancy to turn her hand into like a sword.
All right.
too.
Calm down.
this a good start?
Calm down. Full Metal
Yeah,
Alchemist,
yeah.
for sure.
Yep, I'm DMing too hard, aren't I?
You just,
It's
you're going
too good.
140%. We needed it about a...
You need. I think you need like another shirt. It says "World's Best DM."
It's true.
It's
You
just-
need that shirt, Sil.
Wait, I need it. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll
But-
invest in one.
So, back into the game, we find that Belle comes across, and you see that Urin is just standing there looking at you, Belle, and he just says, "What the fuck does this guy want?"
and then I realized that I still can't. Like I can't actually communicate with him. So I
You
have to
wouldn't
actually
have-
mime it out exactly the same as what he's done anyway.
He keeps like this. I don't know what it is.
I go.
What's he
I
saying?
point to him. I point to the frog. Point to Sil, and then I do like slashing movements.
Like, he wants me to kill him. Yeah?
And I go no. And I go kind of.
He wants me to hurt him.
Yes.
This isn't going well.
Okay.
Oh wait, yes it is.
And then a little bit.
Okay. We can fight tonight. It's good. It'll be fun.
I do this. And then I talk to him. I'm like, he wants to fight you.
Yes. And then I look at him and go like, you, me, and then like, whoa. And then I'm like, I do the symbol for finally, which is like, gah, like
And
that.
flip him off.
He
It's an ambiguous one. It can also mean like ka and like other stuff. But
Fantastic.
In this circumstance, it's finally.
And as you hold out your hand like this, he puts up one hand, takes up a second, and creates like a boxing pose for a minute. And then you see him
And you
spring
do this.
from the balls of his feet
Oh Jesus!
towards his back onto one hand, and kind of sweeps his leg around behind him, creating like a bit of a like a flaring motion of his body. And all of this is happening very quickly. He begins flipping backwards, bounces about 5 feet into the air, lands on his feet, and then takes up a very staunch pose just directly opposite you. And then kind of bows
You pick,
and
you pick
grabs
the Jet Li of these guys.
grabs his sword off of the ground and puts it back into the sort of sheath that's at his side, and then walks away.
Yeah.
Okay, that went well. I'm gonna take. That's my takeaway from this.
Show
I
me,
have to roll high on an acrobatics too, guys.
show him your elven nips.
Okay,
Yeah, that's as a last resort.
It's a good point. So,
Oh,
the evening wears on, and you can begin to hear the sound of like a humming kind of sound from down near the shoreline. It gets to a point where, rather than just a background hum of kind of croaks and insect noise, there is actually below that the sound of timber kind of hitting like itself. There's like this clacking sound, and you look down towards the line of like the swamp, and there are sconces that have been like posts that have torches atop them that have been lit along the fire line, along the swamp line. And you can see that in front of it are arranged a whole heap of, bouquets of like fresh flowers. There is fruits and vegetables from around the area, hundreds of writhing bugs and insects that have been cracked open or, filled inside of like jars, just hundreds of these flying insects. Fruit and everything just sort of spills forth onto the ground. And there are, many individuals that have been gathered here. You see Grung in all kinds of colors, these blues, purples, yellows, reds, greens. All of these individuals just coming together, wearing various sort of ceremonial accoutrement. And they begin looking around as the music begins playing, and Thorax, at this point in time, I'm assuming you've been spending the afternoon with Thoju, and there's been a lot of attention, people kind of coming past and just putting food at his feet. There has been, individuals that kind of look at you and then will just like bow down towards you for a second and then shuffle across towards Thoju and begin saying a prayer. Just all of this croaking. It's a very busy afternoon. You're kind of playing like manager for the talent, which in this case is Thoju.
I've stuffed pretty much one of everything into my pockets, and I no longer have use of both of my hands because I've kind of just got stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
And
So
the other hand is just kind of adding stuff on top.
cool. I'll say for the case of what that actually is, it translates to about 12 days of rations of relatively fresh meat and vegetable. The meat is mostly insect and worms, but you do have an extra, what did I just say, 10, 12?
Let's go with 10 because I'm going to drop a lot of it.
You'll have 10 extra days of rations that would keep you alive. And Thoju is getting a giant feed at the moment of just so much food.
He's earned it.
So, you see the evening come, the noise of the swamp beginning to pervade the surrounding environment, and the sound of then this tribal-like music begins playing. You see that the three one of the elders that met you earlier and two other shamans begin walking towards yourself and Thoju. They kind of stop as they get close by, and they're about 10 feet from you.
I start a food fight.
So you throw, roll a ranged attack, like with one of the pieces of fruit. Are you aiming for like the guy on the left, the guy on the right, or the guy in the middle?
It's like a soft lob.
Yep.
Like, they could easily dodge. I'm just kind of testing the water. 16.
Cool. So you throw it, it goes up into the air, and it seems like it's lobbing directly for the one on the right. You see the staff of the guy in the middle just flick up at the last second in an almost blinding bit of speed. Just cracks the piece of fruit out of the way, sends it across, rolling into a little ditch that's off to the side. And he just places the staff back on the ground, points at Thoju, and then curls his finger.
I tell Thoju to go. It makes sense in this context. We're not up for a food fight, so obviously they have some other game, possibly tag. I don't want to play tag. They'll make me sick, so I nudge Thorax to go play tag as my champion.
Cool. So you nudge Thorax forward, and then Thorax begins walking forward and kind of stops for a second, You see the eye stalk like swivel, looking back towards you, and then swivels forward and begins walking. But the other three haven't moved. And then the one in the center points towards you, and then curls his finger, turns around, and begins walking away, back down towards where the music is coming from.
Well, clearly it's not tag, so it's on some other game. I don't have my steed anymore, so instead... Oh god, I don't have my steed anymore.
It was going to be like an airbud moment.
I don't think that
It's
is
like,
true.
no, come over here.
I don't have much, so I turn into sausage dog and just doggy paddle my best through the swamp behind them.
Yeah, so at the moment this is relatively like dry land. You're up on the banks of the shore. Like I'd imagine that you guys have gone back here, celebrate, like relaxing for the day into the main part of town. So you can pretty much just walk behind them if you don't want to use your wild shape.
Okay, never mind. No sausage dog, regular walking. But I'm not all good, but I'm ready to run in any direction if the game of tag starts. Like
For
I
sure.
am.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you come down to this area by the side of the swamp and see that both the guards that had escorted you here and several others, there seems to be about 8 or 9 of these individuals that are dressed up in relatively fine armor, not silvered, but it is definitely leather, and they are all standing around with different weaponry to what you had seen before. Spears that have feathers that are hanging from the end of them, and all of them are carrying a single timber shield. They're all kind of standing as a vanguard towards the center of this offering that has been put out for the god that they perceive Thoju to be. As he kind of gets to the point where the elders have been leading him, he turns around, and one of the elders takes a handful of food and just holds it aloft. Thoju's tongue darts out and just begins feeding, and he begins just eating all of the food that is around, just like filling his gut, going nuts. So there's all of this commotion, his tongue just darting back and forth, and everyone is kind of quiet for a moment. They all pause, the music stops, and Thoju is just eating. Everything's kind of quiet. You're standing there, Thorax. The rest of you, I'm imagining, are like amongst the crowd. Is anyone doing anything in particular right now?
I was gonna ask, sorry, how much time has elapsed since I did the spell?
So
Would
it's
I need
evening
to
now.
refresh it?
I'd imagine that before you've come along to this, you would have gone ahead and spent the 15 minutes coming up to the ceremony, like getting your ritual cast.
Thanks.
Cool.
So yeah. So anyone doing anything else?
My ball and that frog.
At this point, I open my mouth, and then I just kind of point to the food, point to my mouth, and I just kind of like just keep doing that, trying to make eye contact with any of the frog people near me. Be like,
Cool. So you're doing that, just trying to like point at the food and towards your mouth. What idea are you trying to convey? That you would like to eat it?
that one of them should feed me as well.
Oh, right. The elders do nothing about that, neither do the guard, and everyone else is kind of about maybe 15 feet back. So you can hear that they are beginning to, I suppose, say some kinds of
What?
some. Oh, sorry. I was a little far away from the computer, and my headset was playing up. So they begin speaking now in the silence, except for the sloshing and kind of like slithering of Thoju's tongue. You can hear Beleaguer that Akal is beginning to like sort of say a sermon. He says,
Many years have passed, and we have not had sight or sound of the Great One. It has been unfulfilling. And when Urin alerted me that one of these creatures had come by, I was skeptical. But tonight, we celebrate.
And you can hear the sound of these sticks beginning to like beat again against logs that are laid out along the shoreline. And this background noise begins to build. He says,
Tonight we spend thanking our adventurers. They have provided so much for the city. They will feast. They will enjoy our wine. Nobody will touch them. We take rest now, knowing that our temple will soon be cleared. And we may return to our way of life in the eastern parts of this swamp.
I relay this to everybody else.
I'm not paying attention because I'm still trying to figure out how the game
Sorry.
works.
for sure. You're not sure of this game. Like, there's croaking involved.
Yeah.
There's definitely croaking
Yeah. So
involved.
while he's speaking and like she's trying to relay it, I wander over to the food and begin trying to take some food to throw it at Thoju. Maybe that's how I score points. Maybe the game is to feed Thoju, so I just walk up, start grabbing food and throwing it at Thoju.
Yeah, you begin like lobbing it up into the air, and his tongue begins darting around, like collecting all of the food that you're lifting up. People seem pretty happy.
I begin showboating.
Nice. Roll a performance check for me.
It's like doing skee ball into the mouth, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
15 total.
Nice. You're making a pretty good show of it. There's still this kind of stillness in the people that are nearby, except for the single elder Akal that is kind of saying his piece still, just croaking, but it doesn't faze you too much. You're like, hey, cool, we've got a bit of a soundtrack going here with the like tribal beats behind it and this croaking going on. It's, you're getting into your rhythm of throwing fruit in the air. Baliga, you hear that Akal begins finishing up his kind of piece, and he just says,
The Great One has returned, and we may rejoice and enjoy the swamp. Our tree shows signs of recovery. This will forever grow forth from the tower we've created. Now feast!
and he puts his hands up in the air, and you just hear all of this croaking coming from the crowd. Just hundreds and thousands, oh well, not quite thousands, but definitely hundreds of croaks erupting from the environment around you. You get the idea that above you there are frogs in the trees just sitting, watching. That amongst you on the ground here, there's even from out on the swamp itself, there are frogs that are croaking. And these grung just create this chorus of sound that really harmonizes with the beating of the drums, and it almost becomes chant-like for a moment. And this goes on for a minute or two, and there's not really any words that are being spoken, Baliga, but it's just a chanting sound that is like very ritualistic. So
Cool, thanks. So whoever's around me, because I'm not sure, I think Thorax went off on his own little mission. I just convey that they're just celebrating, obviously, Thorax being here and the fact that we're going to go and clear the temple.
okay.
I begin to bow during the thing, and I do the whole, like, I point to the crowd, like, no, you're the champions. Thank you, and I take my leave and wander back to the party.
And you see that a couple of the grung are kind of like holding their hands up, just slapping their hands together. And there's a bit of like this like wet clapping coming from the crowd. And you see that like groups begin to form around different areas, and not so, like, what would you say, organized and laid out properly. There is definitely like an area where people are heading, and there are a whole heap of I suppose these urns and jugs that have been filled with wine. There is another section that has been set up with different foods, a whole heap of similar things that were seen to what Thorax and Thoju are standing amongst. But you also see that there is a small fire that has been lit in like a channel of dirt, almost like a trench, and they have a rotisserie that has been set up over the top of it, and there are several different kinds of insect that have been skewered onto a large branch and are being, spun around rotisserie style right now by one of these individuals. So you see people Grung beginning to disperse to their respective areas of what they are interested in. And Beleaguer, there's just hundreds of thousands of conversations. Like, you hear people telling their children that this is what we used to do. We would spend time worshipping the creator, and he would, give us gifts in return. He would make sure that, crops were bountiful and that we would find food when we needed it most. And all of these stories that they're telling their children, and they're just like, the kids kind of are a bit enthralled by the fact that they've heard this story for so many years, and then there is this giant creature in front of them. So you don't really catch too much else, but still, at this point in time, you see that a few of the Grung have headed towards the waterline, and there is a shoreline that is lit by a large density of these torches. And in the water currently, you can see that Erlin is standing with about 5 to 10 others, just chewing on bugs, kind of throwing carcasses to the side, getting rid of bits of exoskeleton, and he's standing around. And then you see on the shoreline itself, there are some Grung that appear to be like circling each other, just very like stepping as though dancing, and then for a moment they pause, jump at each other, and are like in the air wrestling, throw each other back and land on the ground, mostly on, like, one of them lands on all fours, this purple individual, and then you see the golden individual that he had jumped at kind of land on its back and like slide across the mud into the water. And then you see them both stand back up and begin circling again. And then eventually one of them, they lock hands, both of them standing on the ground. The golden one pushes back at this purple one, and you see that they are both fighting to put the other into the water. As though on this shoreline, the idea is that the victor will put one under the water, and that is the end of the battle. You see that they finish their bout in about like a minute of time. It doesn't take super long. And then another two begin to walk out of the water and kind of like look at each other across the ring, bow to each other, and then begin circling again.
All right. So first things first. Does it look like there's enough of those bugs to go around?
Oh yeah, like there is food aplenty.
All right. I'm not averse to bugs. I've eaten bugs. I've lived out there. I'm going to eat some bugs if I can find some. If I find them on the way, I like to, like, almost like a snack, sort of munch on these bugs as I walk towards Urin.
Yeah, for sure.
And if there's not, I mean, are there some on the way, or have they hoarded them down by the water's edge?
No. So there's definitely there's a food station and a drink station and like all of this kind of stuff set up, but
cool.
it's very sporadically dispersed along about maybe 150 feet of shoreline. And you walk up to one area where there's a fire going and see that there's some relatively large beetles, like up to about the size of half a basketball, that have been roasted. And the underbelly has been cracked off. You can see inside that there is goo, but there's also large sections of muscle that peel away from the exoskeleton. And
fancy.
this relatively this I'm just trying to think of how to describe it. It's in my head and it's not coming out properly. But you see one of the individuals that is behind the bar, a grung that is orange. It has a section of bone, like a hip bone or something from a creature that is sitting across the back of its head. He has a garland of flowers that's around his neck, and then both of his hands currently have little bracelets that are covered in feathers and like pushing back up his arm. And he takes one of the bugs, holds it up, cracks it fresh, and then just pushes it towards you, and you just hear and then he puts his head down and just holds it towards you.
Yes, I will definitely take your bug and eat it. Absolutely.
Cool.
And I take what he's offering. I mean, it's one of these big giant bugs, right?
Yeah. It looks like it's a reasonable. It's close to a meal.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Grabbing that. Hopefully not poisonous. And yeah, I just tasted a little bit. How's it taste? Is it good?
Tastes pretty good. Roll a Constitution save for me.
Okay. That is not very good. Grand total of 4.
It is delicious.
Oh. Good. Hooray.
So
I'm
you
glad
continue.
I dumped so many points into Constitution.
For sure.
I didn't
So
really. I didn't at all.
you quite smugly begin eating your bug as you head across towards the waterline. And then at this point in time, there is like another bout that finishes with an orange individual like landing in the water on his back, and you see kind of a water spout come out of the water for a second, and then he stands up, putting his hands like onto his hips, and you see his like chest heaving and the kind of like the skin like pulling away from and like attaching back to the ribs of the creature, and he kind of walks out of the water, holds a hand out just as though like to stop the other individual, and then the individual that had won puts its hand out and like touches the hand of the other, and then they both walk away.
Okay, so I'd like to approach Oren.
Nice.
Oren. Yes, Oren.
Aaron.
Yes.
Yep.
Good memory.
Okay.
Yep. So I approach him with the intention of, participating in one of these bouts with him.
Cool.
Him, I assume it's a him. It could be a her. Actually, it's probably a her. That would make sense. I don't know. What is Luke?
Yeah, you're not 100% sure. I mean, you're looking at a frog right now.
All right, frog it is. Gender is irrelevant. It's a frog.
Roll a nature check for me.
That is it. Natural 20.
Fantastic. You can see that like the broadness of this creature is much larger than the majority of the population. But you also notice that like across his shoulders, down the outside of his thighs, and the inner step of his feet are just like there's warts and like, rough bumped skin, and the instep of his foot seems to be as close to what you would imagine like amphibious skin could get to calloused.
Okay. So, and we're going with him, it would seem, as well.
It's what you'd think.
Yeah. Seems different to the more motherly types around here.
For sure.
So, yeah, I'd go with male.
Cool.
Good to know in case weird stuff begins to happen. So I'm glad I've used up all my natural 20s now. It's time for the low rolls.
It's time for the fight. Let's get your number ones out of the way.
Let's do it.
Yeah, he's standing in the water currently at about like knee depth, which would be, halfway up your shin. And are you just walking over towards him? can't hear you, buddy.
Can you hear me now?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was just pointing and just pretending to speak. I take it I point back at the area behind.
Yep.
It is behind, yeah. It's on dry land next to the waterline.
Yep.
Was it? Yes.
Yeah, it's
that's what I'm
essentially,
pointing.
it's like at the waterline, and you can see that they're fighting
Yeah.
within about 10 feet of it. So,
Yes. So I point at that,
cool.
and I'm like, "Ugh."
And he looks at you, and he's like, he's got a bit of a curl to his mouth, as though he's smiling. Puts his hands up and just begins nodding, and then points at his eyes, and then directly forward. And you can see that two others are beginning to walk into the center of this like fighting arena, I suppose. There's a few people that have gathered around, and he just points at his eyes again and looks across at the group. And you stand there beside him for a moment, and you see these two individuals come towards the center. There's like a line marked on the ground where they stand opposite, bow at each other, and then step back about 5 feet. And the first motion is to jump at one another. And then from there, the rest of the battle goes out. You see that they kind of push each other across the ground, grappling. There is punching and kicks, but definitely no weaponry at any point in time.
Ooh, okay, that should make things interesting. Yes, well, so does it look like when they jump at each other, do they just attack as like it's just a jump and it's sort of an attack, and then they just sort of brawl it out?
Yeah, it looks as
until
though
one of them hits the water.
Yeah, it looks as though this is something like judo, but aerial judo, where they would be trying to grapple one another and throw one another into the water.
Right. Okay, this is going to get pretty interesting. Yeah, well, I'm assuming we're just respectfully waiting for a chance. So I'll just sort of wait and watch with him and try and learn what I can.
Cool. So you watch this for a while, see that the green individual, relatively skinny and lanky, like quite long in his limbs, is getting the upper hand, managing to put this other red individual in a couple of locks and drag him towards the waterline. At the point that he slips, you see a red individual sweep his leg, and he falls onto his back right next to the waterline, but with a quick series of punches and kicks manages to flip the red individual over him into the water on his back. And then there's a bit of a roar of croaks from around, and everyone begins to you see them passing things between themselves, and then you see that Urin, next to you, sort of taps you on the leg, and then begins walking towards the center of the arena.
Sorry, can I just jump in here?
Yep.
Are the frogs there gambling?
Roll an insight check.
$19.
It sure looks like it. I mean, that
I totally get in the action.
you can see that there is a one individual that's wearing like a sash around him that has a couple of pockets that are tied to it, and he has a whole heap of gems, gold, silver that are in different pouches across his sash. So we go ahead and you walk up towards him. What are you doing?
I motion for Belle to come and help me translate.
I go over, but I have a feeling like my language might be running out soon.
I'd say that you've still got a little bit. Like, it's probably been about half an hour.
Enough to help me gamble.
All right, so then I just go.
So I'm kind of like, just rub my fingers together to like the money symbol for like, and I kind of nod excited.
And you see this individual who has kind of like a bit of a drooping jaw, like a drooping croak pouch below his chin, kind of like takes out some gems and gold and flicks it out across his fingers and holds it in front of you, and then stashes them back into the pockets and holds his hands up. And he just says, "We have 5-1 on this one." What is his name?
Sil?
Seal. Fantastic.
Sil as in silly.
I like it.
Sorry.
And there is 2-1 on Udin.
I'm voting for my friend.
They're on Sil every time. Every time.
He's kind of like my mentor. He'd be angry if I didn't.
Oh
Right.
no, I am a, you know,
What are you
peaceful,
betting?
You know, be calm.
I bet 1 gold piece.
He's like, looks at you. You see like the eyebrow over his eye kind of raise, and he's like, "You don't have much confidence in your friend, do you?"
I relay this back to Ko.
Stop trying to get me out of my money.
I mean, sure, if you want to play. Right. Well, I'll take that.
To be honest, Pro doesn't understand odds because neither do I.
Okay.
Okay.
We
Well,
don't understand each other anyway. I
Can I-
don't know what you're saying.
Wander up to him,
yeah, for sure.
and I'm gonna pull out an emerald I've got that's worth 50 gold.
Yep.
I'm gonna give it to him, and I'm gonna point to Sil.
Ah, now this is a betting man. I can see.
Now I'm kind of like looking at you, and then I just like one up you. So I take out my sardonyx, and I'm like, eh.
I just say though, Ko, you still have like all our other gems.
It's true.
What
It's all
platinum?
about gems on gambling.
I don't know what platinum you're talking about.
Am I close enough to see them all betting? Do I follow them, or am I still near the festival thingy?
I'd say like it's up to you whether you stay with Thoju or you wanted to go ahead and like walk about, get some food, do these things.
If it, I'm just gonna run. Like I'm just gonna pretend to be wandering. Wander up. I go 3 silvers on the other guy. I look at the team and go hedge and now bets, and then wander off again.
Okay, so you go ahead and wander off. Don't really see what the odds are or anything like that amongst the betting, but you can see that Sil is definitely like walking up towards a line in the dirt that is ready for this fight. But you said you were heading back towards Thoju?
Yes.
Cool. So you turn around.
Just so you know, I bet the sardonyx.
Okay, so how much is the sardonyx worth?
50 gold.
50 gold. Cool. I'm going to make a note of that. And then, Magnus, you put a 50 gold emerald down as well.
Yeah, but now that Ko's trying to one-up me, I also am going to put down a 50 gold sardonyx.
Oh my god.
I start eyeing my platinum.
You see the individual take a pouch, the top pouch from his bag, and looks through and pulls his hands out. And there are about 5 or 6 gems that are rolling around in it. He just says, you can hear Beliga. He's like, I could probably cover this. All right, I'll take the bet. And he takes the 100 worth of gems from you, Magnus, and the 50 worth of gems and 1 gold piece from you, Ko.
I start eyeing my quartz gem, and if I want to one up again, I'm very competitive.
So you're going to go ahead and try to pass in the gem?
If you win, I'm going to be so rich.
Yeah, I'll give him my quartz gem.
Well, he doesn't quite take it. You go to give it to him, and he puts his hand up, and you can hear this bell. He just says, I cannot cover the cost. Gems like this are too much. I can bet what is already on the table, but anything more, I cannot cover. I will give you worse odds if
My
you
head
would like.
goes up in flames, and I stomp away.
Okay. So are you placing any bet?
Yeah, I still bet those two things.
Okay.
But
cool.
it was kind of more towards Magnus that I was kind of flaring up.
Right.
He has that effect on me.
Okay.
On most people.
Fantastic. So Magnus, you feel that like if this goes well for you, you'll get a 600 gold payout, and you will end up with a what's that going to be? 6 by that's 306 gold payout. So
I'll take what I can get. I guess I do have platinum.
you line up and see that Syl has now taken his place in the center of this clearing. Syl, you're looking across from Urin right now, and
Yes.
what do? You see him kind of stand flat-footed, and he looks at you.
Okay. All right. I suppose I'm unarmed. My gear would I suppose be to the side.
Yeah, you've just
I
left
look
it
at him.
on the near the edge of the water, and yeah, looking straight across at him.
Looking at him. He's looking at me.
Yep.
And I believe this is the part where we bow to each other.
Cool. You begin bowing, and he does the same. His eyes never leave yours, and you're just continuously looking at each other. He just like bows down,
Okay.
and then he takes 3 steps back, and you begin mimicking him, noticing that you're getting a little further away than what he would be.
A little what? Sorry.
A little further away than he is
Yeah.
from this line, and you see his hand by his side just kind of flick once or twice, as though calling you back towards the line slightly.
Okay.
And you end up being roughly the same distance from the line as he is. You're both standing there,
Right.
paused, waiting. There is silence across the crowd. And then you hear the sound of the timber beginning to ring, and you see him spring. So roll initiative for me, Syl.
Yes. No. 9.
Okay, so he's got the drop on you.
Damn it.
That's good. He rolled a 20 for his initiative.
It's hard to beat that.
Yeah, for sure. It really is. Like, actually is. Okay, so he comes towards you, and you see you both leap off of the ground. He kind of makes a slightly speedier jump, but he lands on your chest, and you feel immediately the sensation of the poison that covers them beginning to like pervade you, but it doesn't take effect just yet. You do, however, feel the strength of this creature. Probably not as close to yours. Like he's small individual, relatively decent on his strength, but he is going to try and grapple you. So he's going to try and pull you into this grapple, and that, if you could roll a strength, either an athletics or acrobatics roll to try and sort of squeeze out of it. Either one is your choice. Let me know what you get.
Oh, come. 12.
12. It's reasonable enough. You see that he begins to grab onto you, and you manage to like slip out of the way. You do, however, need to roll a Constitution saving throw as the poison kind of lands across part of your skin.
I got 3.
3. Okay, so that is going to be. You are poisoned for 1 minute, which means you have. Wait a second. Let me just check this. A poison creature no longer in direct contact with the Grung can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns. Okay, so for the moment, yeah, you are poisoned, which means you have disadvantage on your attack rolls.
On all of them.
Yeah, I believe so. Let me just double check that for you.
Boo! Damn.
Right.
That's
No.
One shouldn't put so many gems onto that.
Oh wait, I've got the page. Poison. Disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks.
That'll be that. So You can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of your turns, but you are poisoned for your next round. So he does this, and then you see him make an open hand strike against you. Actually, no, sorry, he grappled you, so that's not going to be. That'll be his main attack.
You did.
So you are currently.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So currently you've leapt forward, and he's kind of like done this in a matter of moments. And you are in the air. He is nearby. What are you doing?
In that case, I choose to attack.
Fantastic.
So I am throwing, leaping mid-air. I'm going 2 fists, one for his face and one for his little frog belly.
Okay.
Just sort of trying to like smash him with both of them.
For sure. So go ahead and let me know what you get for that.
I swear to God, this number keeps coming up every roll. That would be 12.
12. So you aim your first strike. It kind of
and is this with disadvantage?
disadvantage, yeah, because it's your attack.
Well, that's the low roll. Cool.
Okay, so your first attack misses. Second attack.
I believe it also misses. That's,
Okay.
Less than 12. Yeah.
Okay, yep. A less than 12 is also going to
all right.
miss.
And I would like to take a bonus attack and a bonus move to take the dodge action on my next turn. That will take the dodge action as a bonus action on your turn.
Oh, is that a monk skill that you got?
Yes.
Cool. So you go ahead and take the dodge action,
It costs
which
me points.
means that he has disadvantage on his next attack. But you can repeat your saving throw as you both kind of fall from the air, landing relatively close to each other. You're only about 2 or 3 feet away from each other, relatively within melee distance, definitely. You see him turn around, begin circling you slightly, and you see that he goes ahead. Where did I just put my d20? Oh my god. There it is. Okay, you see
I
him.
can roll one for you. It will get a 5.
That's okay. I literally just rolled a 5 also. You see him spring towards you and attempt to push your chest. Noticing that you are facing the firelight, you see that he's slightly uphill of where you are towards the water. He goes to push you. Can you just roll a strength check?
That is a 13.
13 is fine. You see, he kind of pushes at you, and then lands on the ground again himself. Kind of a little confused. You're a very large individual. He's trying to adapt his fighting style. So what are you doing?
Am I still poisoned?
Roll as though this was the end of your last round. So roll a Constitution saving throw.
That is a total of 4.
4 does not work. So go ahead. You are at disadvantage on this round. What are you doing?
All right, I am going to attempt to throw everything I've got, flailing wildly at him with all 4 limbs.
Nice.
This isn't quite Fangs of the Serpent from before. This is more just I don't know, Attack of the Crazy Man.
Yeah, but it actually looks like how some of the Grung have been jumping at each other. You go forth with all limbs forward, and it's somewhat scary watching this man leap at someone. But yeah.
Shall I roll? Well, it'll be 8 rolls, I suppose, for the attack rolls.
Yeah, so each time you roll an attack,
on each?
yeah, roll 2. Yep.
Okay, I'll go through them with you. Okay. Oh, yes. I rolled the same number twice. 26 for the first one.
Yeah, that definitely hits.
And the second one is just a no. Yeah, that's 10.
Okay.
And then we've got also 10. And then we've got that would be 6 plus 7 is 13.
13 hits.
And was that all of them, or have I got one more?
That was 4.
I think that was the 4 of them. You got 2 10s
That
and
was
then
the
2
4.
hits. Yep.
Yay.
So roll damage for 2 attacks.
Okay. 2 attacks. And with disadvantage as well? Or
No, just roll your damage. Yeah, just as normal.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Then we've got... Oh no, I'm not rolling a d20 for damage. Whoops.
Not yet,
I
you
was
crazy
like,
monk.
15 attack? Jeez. 3 plus 4... Is that? Yeah. 7?
Yep, cool.
And 6. And here's the fun part. I would like him to succeed on a Constitution saving throw. DC of what's 11 plus 3? 14.
Dumping some key points. What was the save against? Wisdom?
Constitution. No,
Was it?
it
It
is
was
a
Constitution.
Constitution, yes.
Okay, so he gets a total of 7.
Yes. In that case, the target they are stunned until your next turn.
Oh, cool. So you kind of like strike him in his solar plexus with your second blow, and you just see this like shockwave of energy like pulse through his body for a moment, and he's just frozen in that position. You see him just stuck as though his body has gone completely frozen. So,
wonderful.
Stunned. You are on the condition pages right now, aren't you? For your place handle?
Yes.
Can you just double check what
Yes.
stunned does for me?
Incapacitated, so can't move, can't speak. And I think that's the only one with incapacitated. That's it. Can't take actions or reactions, actually.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Until the end of my next turn. Holy shit. Excellent.
So
automatically fails strength and dex saving throws, and my attacks against him have advantage.
Fantastic. So you would now just be for any of your attacks just at a standard roll. But it is the end of your turn, so roll your Constitution save because you are no longer in contact with the creature.
That is a 8.
8. You are still poisoned. You feel it. Yeah, you feel it kind of setting in. It's not the greatest. Really, it sucks.
Okay.
You do, however, notice as you take this brief pause after taking a punch that your opponent is not moving, and he is just kind of stuck where you are, where he is, and it is now your turn once more.
All right, I'd like to take. Whoa, that was crazy. That's how the crowd's gonna go in a second, because I'm gonna really line up a perfectly force-worthy series of punches with one of them being excessive force, using the power of my key to push him towards the water.
Cool.
Which direction's the water? Can I do that? I'm aiming him to the water.
Yeah, so currently it is him, you, and then the water, but the water is only about 10 feet away. And if you were to walk around to the opposite side of him and then strike those blows, and you can do this however you would like. Go ahead,
right.
And that's pretty much the layout that you can kind of see at the moment.
All right. Well, I plan to go forward towards him, punch him across the face in the direction that I'm heading towards him, and then after passing him, take 2 strikes at him back towards the water.
Cool. So you go ahead, take this first strike. What's the hit there?
That is the 23.
23 hits. So you smack him across the face. You see this like stunned expression, just like the head flinches and falls back into place. What's the damage?
Very good. That is 10.
10 points. Very nice.
He's getting his ass whooped, guys. He's getting his ass whooped.
It's getting pretty beat. But you go ahead and see that he's still standing there, locked in that position.
Yep. And he's got an attack. He's got a flurry of blows coming his way.
Nice.
So 2 strikes, 2 unarmed coming his way. They are a 12.
The 12 misses.
And a 15.
The 15 hits.
Yes, that was the kick. I was thinking punch, elbow, and then sort of like a donkey kick going on.
Nice. Nice. I like it.
So that, now I've landed that. Oh, want some damage? I'd
Yeah,
love to
that'd
give
be
you some.
that'd be great.
It's 6 damage. And if you would like to, please make a strength saving throw. DC is 14 again.
As you heard, with the stunned condition, the creature automatically fails strength and dexterity saving throws.
In that case, could you please push the target up to 15 feet away from me?
Up to? You would like it to be the entire length, I'm sure.
I would like
sure.
the maximum, please, sir.
Fantastic.
Yes, please.
You take the first strike, and you notice that the stun kind of almost like drops from his body. His arms begin falling to the side, but before the arms even fall a couple of centimeters, you land your second strike, and you just see the individual move completely horizontally across the dirt, landing like near the water's edge, skimming 3 times out into the water, and then sinking. And you just see him go below the surface, and there's silence for a moment. All of the drum beats stop. About 5 seconds pass by, and then you see the water just erupt, and there is this, individual that is standing there, and he kind of takes a bit of a breath down, and you hear everyone around just like croaking, gibbering. There's like hands that are clapping, like the music starts again, and standing close by, you can see Magnus, Valiga, and a little further away, Ko, and they're all looking at you, like clapping their hands at the moment.
I am cheering very loudly.
Yeah, of course you would be. So, Sil, you wait near the line in the center of the ring, and Urin walks back up towards you and stands on the opposite side of the line, places his hand out in front of him.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna touch that poisonous hand.
As your hand gets close, he pulls his hand back a little, and then just bows.
Oh, he knows. Oh, that's really nice. I bow back because he's a really good sport.
Very good. As you bow, just roll a Constitution save for me.
Oh, that's right. I'm still suffering from it anyway. Fuck me. That's a 1.
Yeah, you go close to throwing up. There's a bit of a burp that kind of like rumbles for a second, and you just like manage to just hold it down in this ceremonious of occasions. And you go ahead, walk out of the ring, and pick up your bug and begin like picking at the meat again, taking a bit of a relaxing time afterwards.
Oh yes.
You see a couple of the Grung come up to you, and with either covered hands or picking up a stick or something else, they kind of like tap you on the shoulder or like on the leg, and they just like raise their hands up in the air and then walk away, and they just like croak at you, and then you find somewhere restful to sit down for a moment and finish your meal. Beleaguer, Magnus, Ko, in the meantime, you go ahead and retrieve your winnings from this dealer. Magnus, you now have 600 gold worth of gems, and Ko, you have 250 gold worth of gems, and 56 gold pieces that are handed to you. So, as we wind down throughout the festivities, and it comes to 10:30 here at the east coast of Australia, we are going to wind down our game also. Thank you all for watching. The next time we will be heading towards the temple, the shrine of Tamoachan. and you will find out what that means in the next game next week. So until then, thank you, adventurers, for playing. Thank you, anyone that has come along on Twitch to watch. And if you would like to catch up on things, what has happened for the Secret Sex Dungeon adventurers in the past, you can go ahead and head along to YouTube, search for Secret Sex Dungeon, and very soon we will have this episode and the previous one uploaded to the site. However, the first 13 or 14 episodes are already there, so you can catch up on the entire story. If you're more interested in Instagram and funny memes about Dungeons and Dragons, come along to instagram.com/Secret Sex Dungeon, and you can find a page that is curated by myself, Gabby, and Matt at the moment, with Beck, putting a whole heap of interesting Dungeons and Dragons memes, updates on when we're playing, and uploads go up onto YouTube. So come along and follow us there. And if you enjoy joining the conversation, come over to Facebook and find us at facebook.com/Secret Sex Dungeon. Until next Monday at 8 p.m. AEST. My name is Luke McFan. I know time zones.
YMCA.
I'm the Dungeon Master here at Secret Sex Dungeon.